The blood on her scrubs was still wet when she boarded the first-class cabin. Rachel Morgan didn't have time to change after her shift at Riverside General in Ashford. Didn't have time for anything except making this flight. The businessman in 2A took one look at her rumpled hospital uniform and laughed out loud. "Security let anyone in here now?" His wife joined in, her diamond bracelet catching the overhead light as she covered her mouth in mock concern. Rachel said nothing. She'd spent the last 18 hours keeping 3 gunshot victims alive in the ER. She didn't have energy left for people like this. But when she reached up to stow her bag, her sleeve pulled back just enough. The tattoo on her shoulder blade, faded black ink, military precision, caught someone's attention 3 rows back. A man went completely still. His coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth, and something like recognition crossed his face. Something like fear. If you want to see how this story ends, if you want to know what that tattoo really means, stay with me until the very last word, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far Rachel's story travels. The cabin smelled like expensive cologne and fresh leather. Rachel Morgan sank into seat 3C and closed her eyes, trying to forget the last patient she'd worked on. 22 years old, motorcycle accident, didn't make it. She could still feel the compression rhythm in her hands. "Excuse me?" The flight attendant's voice was polite but firm. "Can I see your boarding pass?" Rachel handed it over without opening her eyes. "Oh." A pause. "First class. I'll get you some water." The judgment was quiet but clear. Rachel had heard it before. A nurse in scrubs didn't belong up here with the silk ties and designer handbags. She'd used every mile she'd saved over 3 years for this seat because her sister's wedding was tomorrow in Portland and she'd just worked a double. She was too tired to care what anyone thought. "Unbelievable," the man across the aisle muttered. Rachel opened her eyes. He was maybe 50, silver hair perfectly styled, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His wedding ring caught the light, platinum, thick. His wife sat beside him in cream cashmere, scrolling through her phone with manicured nails. "Ethan, don't," the wife said quietly. But Ethan Caldwell wasn't the type to not. "I'm just saying, Sarah, there's first class and then there's..." He gestured vaguely at Rachel. Look at her." Rachel looked down at herself. The scrubs were wrinkled. There was a coffee stain near the hem from when she'd bumped the break room counter at 4 a.m. And yes, there was blood on her sleeve. Not a lot. Enough. "Some of us work for a living," Rachel said quietly. Caldwell's eyebrows went up. "Oh, she speaks. Yes, sweetheart, I work too. Difference is, I don't show up to a flight looking like I just cleaned out a slaughterhouse." His wife touched his arm. "Ethan." "What?" "I pay good money for this ticket. I expect a certain standard." The flight attendant reappeared with water, her smile tight. "Sir, if you could please..." "I'm not doing anything," Caldwell said. "I'm just wondering how someone who empties bedpans affords a seat up here. That's all." Rachel took the water and didn't respond. She'd learned a long time ago that people like Caldwell didn't want answers. They wanted targets. The attendant retreated. Other passengers were looking now. A woman in 4B whispered something to her husband. The man in 5A smirked into his laptop. Rachel pulled her phone out and texted her sister. "On the plane. See you tomorrow." "You know what I think?" Caldwell was still going. "I think someone made a mistake. I think you're supposed to be back in coach with the rest of the..." "That's enough." The voice came from 3 rows back, deep, calm, absolute. Rachel turned. The man who'd gone still earlier was standing now. He was maybe 60, built like he'd spent a lifetime staying in shape. Gray beard, trimmed close. Dark blue jacket over a white shirt, no tie. His eyes were fixed on Caldwell with the kind of focus that made the temperature in the cabin drop. Caldwell blinked. "Excuse me?" "I said that's enough." The man moved up the aisle slowly, his gait steady despite the plane still boarding. "Leave her alone." "Who the hell are you?" The man didn't answer. He stopped beside Rachel's row and looked down at her, really looked. His gaze moved from her face to her shoulder, where her sleeve had ridden up again when she'd reached for her seatbelt. Rachel pulled the fabric down quickly. Too late. The man's expression changed. Something like shock, something like grief. "Black tide," he said quietly. Rachel's blood went cold. She stared at him. He stared back. Around them, the cabin had gone completely silent. "I don't know what you're talking about," Rachel said. "Yes, you do." His voice was gentler now. "The ink's faded, but I'd know that unit marker anywhere. I was there when they designed it." Caldwell was watching this exchange like it was a tennis match. "What's Black Tide? Some kind of biker gang?" The man didn't take his eyes off Rachel. "You're Claire Donovan." "No." Rachel's voice came out harder than she intended. "I'm Rachel Morgan. You've got the wrong person." "Your name changed. Your face didn't." He held out his hand. "Colonel Adrian Wolfe, USMC, retired." Rachel didn't take the hand. Her heart was hammering against her ribs. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. She'd left that life behind, changed her name, moved across the country, spent 6 years building a new identity in a hospital where nobody asked about her past. "I don't know you," she said. Wolf lowered his hand. "Helmand Province, September 2015. Your team was operating out of Forward Base Phoenix, attached to our unit for the Kandahar Corridor operations. You were the only medic for 37 Marines when the IED hit our convoy." Rachel's mouth went dry. "You saved 4 lives that day," Wolf continued. "Would have been 5, but Corporal Martinez didn't make it to the helicopter." Someone gasped. Rachel didn't know who. "I think you have me confused with—" "You carried Lieutenant Reeves 300 yards under fire," Wolf said. "Took shrapnel in your leg doing it. Kept pressure on his femoral artery the whole way. When we finally got him stabilized, you went back out and pulled Sergeant Kim from a burning Humvee." The cabin was so quiet Rachel could hear the baggage handlers outside. Caldwell's wife had a hand over her mouth. Caldwell himself looked like he'd swallowed glass. "That was a long time ago," Rachel said finally. 10 years, Wolf agreed. "I've thought about that day a lot. About what you did. We all have. I was doing my job. Your job was to provide medical support from the base. You weren't supposed to be in the firefight. You ran toward it anyway." Rachel felt her hands shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs. "I need you to sit down, sir." "Not until he apologizes." Wolf turned to Caldwell. The temperature dropped again. "You owe her an apology." Caldwell's face had gone red. "I didn't know—" "Doesn't matter what you didn't know. You judged her based on her clothes and her job. You tried to humiliate her in front of everyone here, so apologize." "This is ridiculous," Caldwell blustered. "I don't even know if this story is true. For all I know, you two are running some kind of scam." Wolf pulled out his phone, pulled up something, held it out. Rachel couldn't see the screen, but she saw Caldwell's face go white. "That's you," Caldwell said quietly. "In uniform." "That's her," Wolf corrected. "Receiving a Bronze Star with Valor from General Mattis himself. There are 4 more photos in that folder. Want to see the one where she's covered in someone else's blood?" Caldwell looked at Rachel. Really looked at her this time. She held his gaze and said nothing. "I'm sorry," Caldwell managed. "To her," Wolf said. "Not to me." Caldwell turned to Rachel. His wife was crying silently beside him, mascara starting to run. "I'm sorry, I was completely out of line." Rachel nodded once. "Okay." "That's it?" Wolf asked. "That's it," Rachel confirmed. She looked at Caldwell. "You're not the first person to judge me based on what I'm wearing. You won't be the last. I stopped caring what people like you think a long time ago." Caldwell flinched like she'd slapped him. "But since we're being honest," Rachel continued, "here's something you should know. The blood on my sleeve? That's from a 19-year-old kid who got shot 3 times outside a convenience store tonight. I spent 2 hours trying to save him. Didn't work. He died on my table at 11:47 p.m. His mother screamed so loud I can still hear it. So when you're sitting there in your expensive suit, judging people who actually do things that matter, maybe remember that some of us don't have the luxury of staying clean." The cabin was silent. Wolf smiled slightly. "Still got that fire." Rachel looked up at him. "You need to sit down now, Colonel." "One more thing." Wolf reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, set it on her tray table. "I didn't just recognize you by accident. I've been looking for you for 2 years. Rachel's stomach twisted. "Why?" "Because Black Tide is being declassified. The mission reports, the casualties, all of it. And there are people who want to make sure the truth comes out." Your name keeps coming up. My name is Rachel Morgan. Your name, Wolf said gently, is Claire Donovan. And whether you like it or not, what you did in Afghanistan matters. The people who died deserve to have their stories told properly. The people who lived deserve to have their service recognized. Rachel picked up the card. It had a phone number. Nothing else. I don't want to be found, she said. You already have been. Wolf started back toward his seat. The question is what you're going to do about it. He sat down. The cabin slowly came back to life. Whispers, stares. The flight attendant made an announcement about preparing for departure, her voice shaking slightly. Rachel stared at the card in her hand. Claire Donovan. She hadn't heard that name spoken aloud in 6 years. Sarah Caldwell leaned across the aisle. Her makeup was ruined. I'm sorry, too, for laughing, for all of it. Rachel nodded. She didn't have words. The plane began to taxi. Rachel closed her eyes and tried to breathe, tried not to think about Helmand Province, about the sand and the blood and the screaming, about carrying Reeves while bullets cracked past her head, about the weight of him, the way his blood soaked through her gloves, about coming home and realizing she couldn't be that person anymore. Couldn't be the woman who'd seen what she'd seen and done what she'd done and still functioned in the normal world. So she'd changed her name, changed her life, became someone who saved people in clean hospitals instead of dirty battlefields. But Wolf had found her anyway. The plane lifted off. Rachel opened her eyes and stared out the window at Ashford falling away below. Somewhere down there, a mother was planning a funeral for her 19-year-old son. Somewhere down there, Rachel's old apartment sat empty, full of things that belonged to a person who didn't exist anymore. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister. Can't wait to see you. It's been too long. Rachel typed back, yeah, too long. She glanced back at Wolf. He was reading something on his tablet, calm as anything, like he hadn't just blown her entire life apart in the space of 5 minutes. The card sat on her tray table. Just a phone number. Rachel picked it up. Put it in her pocket. She didn't know yet if she'd call. Didn't know if she wanted to be Claire Donovan again, even for a day. That woman had done terrible things, brave things, necessary things, but terrible all the same. That woman had nightmares. That woman woke up at 3 a.m. in cold sweats, reaching for weapons that weren't there. That woman had been buried 6 years ago, and Rachel had built a life on top of that grave. But the dead didn't stay buried forever. The flight attendant came by with drinks. Rachel ordered whiskey, drank it in one swallow, ordered another. By the time they reached cruising altitude, the whispers had mostly died down. People were reading, working, sleeping. Caldwell and his wife sat in rigid silence, not looking at anyone. Rachel pulled out her phone and did something she hadn't done in years. She Googled her own name. Claire Donovan, combat medic, Afghanistan. The results were sparse. A few military databases. A mention in a news article about a convoy attack. Nothing recent. She tried black tide. Nothing. If it was classified, it wouldn't be on Google. She put the phone away and stared at the seat in front of her. The leather was perfectly smooth, perfectly clean, nothing like the inside of a field hospital, nothing like the torn metal of a Humvee or the sand-covered stretchers or the way blood looked when it soaked into desert camouflage. Excuse me? Rachel looked up. A man from a few rows back was standing in the aisle. Mid-40s, expensive watch, kind eyes. I just wanted to say thank you, he said quietly, for your service and for what you do now. My daughter's a nurse. I know how hard it is. Rachel nodded. Tell her to take care of herself. The job eats you alive if you let it. I will. He hesitated. That guy, Caldwell, he's an idiot. Everyone here knows it. Doesn't matter. It should. He went back to his seat. Rachel ordered a third whiskey. The flight attendant brought it without comment. Outside the window, the sky was dark. They were somewhere over the Midwest now. Flat land. Small towns marked by clusters of light. Rachel wondered what those people were doing. Wondered if any of them had ever had to carry a dying man through enemy fire. Wondered if any of them woke up at 3 a.m. and still smelled burning flesh. Probably not. Probably they had normal lives, normal problems. They worried about mortgages and soccer practice and what to make for dinner. They didn't have bodies buried in their past. The whiskey helped. A little. Rachel closed her eyes and tried to sleep. She dreamed about Afghanistan. She always did, when something dragged the memories back up. In the dream, she was running, always running. Reeves was bleeding out in her arms. The helicopter was too far away. The bullets were too close. In the dream, she didn't make it. She never made it. Reeves died in the sand and she died with him, and nobody ever found their bodies. She woke up when the plane hit turbulence. 3 hours into the flight, her neck hurt. Her mouth tasted like metal and bad whiskey. Wolf was watching her from 3 rows back. When their eyes met, he nodded slightly. Rachel looked away. The card in her pocket felt like it was burning through the fabric. She pulled it out, stared at the number. Then she opened her phone and typed it in. Didn't call. Just saved it under a single letter, W. The plane descended into Portland just after midnight. Rachel gathered her things slowly. Her whole body ached. The exhaustion was bone deep now, the kind that made her hands clumsy and her thoughts slow. Caldwell and his wife exited quickly, not looking at anyone. Other passengers filed out. A few of them nodded to Rachel as they passed. One woman, elderly, elegant, stopped and squeezed her hand. "You're a hero," the woman said. Rachel shook her head. "I'm just a nurse." "You're both." The woman left. Rachel stood alone in the cabin, bag in hand, trying to figure out how to move forward. Wolf appeared beside her. "Need a ride?" "I've got one." "To the wedding?" Rachel turned to stare at him. "How do you—" "Your sister posted about it on Facebook. Amanda Morgan, soon to be Amanda Chen. You're the maid of honor." A chill ran down Rachel's spine. "You've been watching me." "I've been trying to find you," Wolf corrected. "There's a difference. Look, I know this is overwhelming. I know you built a new life. But what happened in Afghanistan, what your unit did, it matters. And there are people who want to bury it, people with power. If we don't get ahead of this, the story gets told by the people who weren't there." "I don't care about the story." "Yes, you do. You just don't want to care." Wolf's voice was gentle. "I've seen the look you had when I mentioned Martinez, when I mentioned Reeves. You still carry them with you. You think changing your name changed that?" Rachel's jaw tightened. "What do you want from me?" "There's a hearing. Congressional committee. They're reviewing classified operations from 2014 to 2016. Black Tide is on the list. Some senators want to use it as an example of military overreach. They're going to paint your team as reckless, as cowboys who got people killed." "We did get people killed." "You saved more than you lost. Tell that to Martinez's mother." Wolf was quiet for a moment. "I did. 3 years ago. She asked about you, asked if you made it home." Rachel felt something crack in her chest. "What did you tell her?" "That I didn't know. That you disappeared." Wolf met her eyes. "She said to tell you, if I ever found you, that she doesn't blame you, that she knows you did everything you could." Rachel's vision blurred. She blinked hard. "I need to go." "The hearing is in 6 weeks, Washington, D.C. I can arrange everything, travel, lodging, security. You just need to show up and tell the truth." "The truth is I'm not that person anymore." "The truth," Wolf said quietly, "is that you'll always be that person. You can call yourself Rachel Morgan. You can work in a hospital instead of a combat zone. But what you did in Afghanistan, who you were, that doesn't go away. It's written into every choice you make, every patient you save, every time you run toward danger instead of away from it." Rachel shouldered her bag. "I'm going to my sister's wedding. After that, I'm going back to Ashford. I'm going back to my life. And I'd appreciate it if you'd leave me alone." She walked off the plane before he could respond. The terminal was nearly empty. Rachel found the bathroom and locked herself in a stall, put her back against the wall and slid down until she was sitting on the floor. Her hands were shaking. Martinez. Jesus. She hadn't let herself think about Martinez in years. 23 years old, engaged. He'd shown her pictures of his fiancée the day before the convoy. They were planning a Christmas wedding. He was going to propose properly when he got home, even though she'd already said yes informally. The IED had taken his legs. Rachel had done everything right, tourniquets, pressure, hemostatic agents, but there'd been too much blood, too much damage. He'd died holding her hand. "Tell her I love her," he'd said. Those were his last words. Tell her I love her. Rachel had never delivered the message. She'd come home, changed her name, run away from everything that reminded her of that day. Coward. She stood up, splashed water on her face, looked at herself in the mirror. She looked like hell. The scrubs were a disaster. Her hair was falling out of its ponytail. The circles under her eyes were so dark they looked like bruises. But beneath the exhaustion, beneath the nurse's uniform and the carefully constructed normal life, she could still see her. Claire Donovan, combat medic, the woman who'd run into fire to save people she barely knew. Rachel's phone rang. Her sister. "Hey, I'm at baggage claim. Where are you?" Rachel forced brightness into her voice. "On my way. Sorry, plane just landed." "No worries. I'm so excited to see you." "Me too." She hung up, stared at her reflection one more time. Then she walked out of the bathroom, through the terminal, down to baggage claim. Amanda was waiting by Carousel 3. She lit up when she saw Rachel, ran over and hugged her so hard Rachel's ribs creaked. "You made it! I was so worried. Oh my God, what happened to your uniform? Is that blood?" "Work was crazy. I'll explain later." "Are you okay?" Rachel held her sister tight and lied. "I'm fine." They collected Rachel's bag, a small carry-on with a bridesmaid dress and nothing else, and headed for Amanda's car. Amanda talked the whole way, excited chatter about flowers and seating arrangements and last-minute disasters with the caterer. Rachel let the words wash over her, nodded in the right places, smiled when she was supposed to, but her mind was elsewhere. 6 weeks. Washington, D.C., a congressional hearing about things that were supposed to stay buried. She couldn't do it. Couldn't go back to being Claire Donovan. Couldn't stand in front of a committee and relive the worst day of her life. But Martinez's mother had asked about her. "She doesn't blame you." Rachel stared out the car window at Portland sliding past. Clean streets, safe streets. No IEDs, no snipers, no burning Humvees. This was her life now. This was what she'd chosen. But choice, she was learning, was a luxury the past didn't always grant. Amanda pulled up to her apartment, a nice place in the Pearl District, exposed brick and high ceilings. Her fiancé Marcus was waiting at the door. He hugged Rachel carefully, like she might break. "Good flight?" Rachel thought about Caldwell, about Wolf, about the card in her pocket that felt heavier with every passing minute. "It was fine," she said. They went inside and Rachel tried to pretend everything was normal. Marcus offered her wine. Amanda showed her the centerpieces they'd spent 3 weekends assembling. Rachel nodded and smiled and felt like she was watching the scene from somewhere far away. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She excused herself to the bathroom and read the text. "Think about what I said. You have time, but not much. Wolf." Rachel deleted it, splashed cold water on her face. When she came back out, Amanda was pulling the bridesmaid dress from Rachel's bag. "You need to try this on. The seamstress did the alterations, but I want to make sure—" "Oh God, Rach, you're shaking." Rachel looked down at her hands. Amanda was right. "I'm just tired. Long shift. You work too hard." Amanda hung the dress carefully. "When's the last time you took a real break, like more than a day?" Rachel couldn't remember. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You look like you haven't slept in a week." Amanda's voice softened. "What's going on?" For a second, Rachel almost told her, almost said, "I used to be someone else. I did things in Afghanistan that I can't talk about, and now someone from that life found me and wants me to go back." But Amanda had never known Claire Donovan. She'd only known Rachel, the big sister who'd moved to Ashford 6 years ago and sent birthday cards and visited twice a year and never, ever talked about where she'd been before. "Work's been rough," Rachel said. "Lost a patient tonight. Young kid. It got to me." Amanda hugged her. "I'm sorry. That's awful." "Yeah." "You want to talk about it?" "Not really." Marcus appeared with wine. They sat on the couch, and Amanda went through the wedding timeline. Rehearsal dinner tomorrow night, ceremony on Saturday, reception immediately after. Rachel would give a toast. Had she prepared anything? Rachel lied and said yes. She stayed another hour, then claimed exhaustion and took an Uber to her hotel. It was a decent place near the convention center, clean, quiet, anonymous. She checked in, rode the elevator to the 4th floor, and locked herself in a room that smelled like industrial cleaning products and recycled air. The bed was too soft, the pillows too flat. Rachel lay on top of the covers in her scrubs and stared at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number, different from Wolf's. She answered without thinking. "Hello? Is this Rachel Morgan?" The voice was female, young, uncertain. "Who's asking?" "My name is Jennifer Martinez. I'm trying to reach someone who served with my brother in Afghanistan, Corporal David Martinez. He died in 2015, and Her voice broke. "I was told you might have known him." Rachel sat up so fast her vision blurred. "How did you get this number?" "Colonel Wolf. He said you were on the plane with him tonight. He said you were the medic who tried to save David." Rachel's throat closed. "I can't talk about this." "Please, just 5 minutes. I need to know what happened. The military won't tell us anything except that he died in a convoy attack. My mother, she's been waiting 10 years for answers. I'm sorry for your loss." Rachel's voice came out flat, professional. "But I can't help you. He talked about you in his letters, called you Doc, said you were the toughest person in the unit." Rachel closed her eyes. "That was someone else. Please, I know this is hard, but we deserve to know the truth. He was my brother. He was supposed to come home and marry his girlfriend and have kids. Instead, we got a flag and a burial at Arlington and nothing else. Don't we deserve to know what he died for?" Rachel's hand tightened on the phone. "He died because an IED tore through our convoy. He died because I wasn't fast enough. He died because war is chaos and people get killed, and there's no good reason for any of it. That's the truth. That's all the truth there is." Silence on the other end, then quiet crying. "I'm sorry," Jennifer said finally. "I shouldn't have called. Wolf said you'd probably say no. I just thought, I don't know what I thought." She hung up. Rachel sat in the dark hotel room and tried to breathe. Tried not to think about Martinez bleeding out in the sand. Tried not to hear his voice. Tell her I love her. She'd never delivered the message. She'd run away instead. Coward. Her phone rang again. She almost didn't answer, but the caller ID said Amanda. "Hey, are you okay? You left so fast." Rachel forced normalcy into her voice. "I'm fine. Just needed to crash. Marcus thinks I upset you. Did I say something wrong?" "No, you're perfect. The wedding's going to be perfect." Amanda was quiet for a moment. "Rach, I know we don't talk about stuff, real stuff, but you know you can tell me anything, right?" Rachel felt something crack a little wider in her chest. "I know." "Okay, get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow at the rehearsal, 6 p.m. at the venue." "I'll be there." Rachel hung up and sat in the dark until her eyes adjusted. Then she pulled out her laptop and did something she'd sworn she'd never do. She Googled David Martinez. His obituary came up first. Beloved son, brother, uncle. Survived by parents Maria and Robert, sister Jennifer, fiancé Kelly Brennan. Services held at Holy Cross Catholic Church in San Diego. There was a photo. Martinez in dress blues, smiling. 23 years old, entire life ahead of him. Rachel scrolled past the obituary. Found a Facebook memorial page. Hundreds of posts from people who'd loved him. Photos of him as a kid. As a teenager. In uniform at basic training. Kelly Brennan had posted once, 2 years after his death. "I still wait for you to call. I still save your spot on the couch. I don't know how to stop." Rachel closed the laptop before she could read more. She didn't sleep that night, just lay in the dark and listened to the city outside. Sirens, traffic, someone arguing in the next room. Normal sounds, safe sounds. At 5 a.m., she gave up and went for a run. Portland was just waking up. Food carts setting up. Homeless people stirring under bridges. Rachel ran until her legs burned and her lungs screamed, and she couldn't think about anything except putting one foot in front of the other. She showered back at the hotel, put on civilian clothes, jeans and a sweater that had been stuffed in her carry-on, looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her phone buzzed. Text from Wolf. "Jennifer Martinez called you. I gave her your number. Hope that's okay." Rachel typed back, "It's not." His response came immediately. "She deserves answers, so do I. Like why you're tracking my family and giving out my contact info. Because you won't do it yourself. Because you're hiding from people who need you." Rachel threw the phone on the bed. She wanted to scream, wanted to break something, wanted to get on a plane back to Ashford and forget this entire trip. But Amanda's wedding was tomorrow, and Rachel had promised. She spent the day walking around Portland, killed time in Powell's books, got coffee at a place that roasted their own beans, tried not to think about congressional hearings or dead Marines or the life she'd left behind. At 5:30, she took an Uber to the venue, a restored barn on the outskirts of the city, all exposed wood and string lights. Amanda was already there with her bridesmaids, fussing over flower arrangements and place cards. "Rach," she rushed over. "Thank God. I need you to help me with the seating chart. Marcus's aunt and uncle are divorced and they can't sit at the same table, but we're running out of—" "Show me." They spent 20 minutes rearranging place cards. Then the rehearsal started. Rachel walked through her role, down the aisle, stand to the left, hold the bouquet during vows. Simple. Easy. Except she kept noticing things. The exits, the sight lines, the way the old barn had blind spots where someone could hide. Combat thinking. Even after 10 years. The rehearsal dinner was at a restaurant nearby. 30 people. Good food. Too much wine. Rachel sat between Amanda's college roommate and Marcus's cousin and made small talk about nursing in Portland and how beautiful the venue was. "So how do you know Amanda?" the cousin asked. "I'm her sister." "Oh, sorry, you two don't look alike." "Different dads," Rachel said. It was true. Their mother had remarried when Rachel was 12. Amanda came 2 years later. By the time Rachel turned 18, she'd enlisted. Barely saw her half-sister growing up, but they'd gotten close in the years since Rachel moved to Ashford, or as close as Rachel let anyone get. "Do you live in Portland?" the cousin pressed. "Ashford, on the coast." "Oh, I love Ashford. My boyfriend and I went there last summer. That little bakery on Main Street? Amazing." Rachel smiled and nodded and let the conversation wash over her. Around them, people laughed and drank and celebrated. Normal people, normal lives. She excused herself and went outside. The restaurant had a patio that overlooked the Willamette River. The water was dark and slow-moving. City lights reflected on the surface. "You hiding out here too?" Rachel turned. Marcus's best man, a guy named Derek she'd met exactly once before, was standing by the railing with a beer. "Just needed air," Rachel said. "Yeah, weddings are exhausting, and we haven't even gotten to the main event yet." Derek took a drink. "You're the nurse, right?" "That's me." "Must be intense work." "Sometimes." "I'm in finance, numbers all day, pretty boring compared to saving lives." Rachel shrugged. "Someone's got to do the boring stuff." Derek laughed. "Fair. Hey, I heard something weird happened on your flight last night. Amanda mentioned you got into it with some asshole businessman." Rachel's stomach tightened. "It wasn't a big deal." She said some military guy stood up for you, called you a war hero or something. Amanda exaggerates. "Did you serve?" Rachel looked at the river. "Long time ago? Afghanistan or Iraq?" "Afghanistan." "Damn, thank you for your service." The words always sounded hollow. Rachel had heard them 1,000 times from people who had no idea what they were thanking her for. "It was a job," she said. Derek seemed to sense he'd hit a nerve. "Well, anyway, if that guy on the plane was a dick, he deserved whatever he got." Rachel's phone buzzed. She pulled it out. Another text from an unknown number. "This is Kelly Brennan. Jennifer gave me your info. I know you don't want to talk, but I need to ask you something. Did David suffer?" Rachel stared at the screen. Her hands started shaking again. "You okay?" Derek asked. "Fine, I should get back inside." She didn't go back inside. She walked to the parking lot and called the number. Kelly answered on the first ring. "Hello? This is Rachel Morgan." A sharp intake of breath. "Oh my God, I didn't think you'd actually call." "You asked if he suffered." Rachel's voice was steady, calm. "He didn't. It was fast. He wasn't in pain." It was a lie. Martinez had been in agony, screaming, begging, but Kelly didn't need to know that. "Thank you," Kelly whispered. Thank you. Is there anything else?" "Can you tell me what he said? At the end? Jennifer said you were with him when he died." Rachel closed her eyes, saw Martinez's face, felt his hand gripping hers. heard his voice breaking. Tell her I love her. Said he loved you, Rachel said. That was the last thing he said. Kelly started crying, full, wrenching sobs that made Rachel's chest hurt. I'm sorry, Rachel said. I should have found you sooner, should have told you years ago. Why didn't you? Because I wasn't strong enough. Kelly cried for another minute, then her voice steadied. Colonel Wolfe said there's a hearing about what happened to David's unit. He said you might testify. I don't know. Will you think about it, please? Because I've spent 10 years being told that David died in a classified operation, and I'm not allowed to know the details. I want the truth. I deserve the truth, don't I? Rachel thought about Martinez, about Reeves and Kim and all the others, about the mission that had gone wrong and the choices that had gotten people killed. You deserve the truth, Rachel agreed. I'm just not sure I can give it to you. Why not? Because the truth is ugly, because it won't bring him back, because some things are better left buried. That's not your decision to make, Kelly said quietly. He was my future, my whole life, and he's gone. The least I can have is the truth about how he died. Rachel didn't have an answer for that. Think about it, Kelly said. Please. She hung up. Rachel stood in the parking lot and tried to hold herself together. Failed. The tears came fast and hard, and she couldn't stop them. 10 years of holding everything in, and it was all coming apart. She cried for Martinez, for Reeves, for all the people she couldn't save, for Claire Donovan, who died in the desert and never made it home. When she finally pulled herself together, she went back inside. The dinner was winding down. People were saying their goodbyes. Amanda was laughing at something Marcus said, her face bright and happy, and completely unaware that her sister was falling apart 20 feet away. Rachel stayed until the end, hugged Amanda goodnight, promised she'd be at the venue early tomorrow to help set up. Then she took an Uber back to the hotel and sat on the edge of the bed with Wolf's card in her hand. She called. He answered immediately. I was wondering when I'd hear from you. You had no right to give my number to Jennifer and Kelly. You're right, I didn't, but they deserve to reach you more than you deserve to hide. Rachel wanted to argue, couldn't. Tell me about the hearing, she said instead. Wolf's tone shifted. Business now. Senate Armed Services Committee. They're reviewing covert operations from the Afghanistan drawdown period. Black Tide is one of 6 missions under investigation. Some senators think it was a success. Others think it was a disaster that got Marines killed for no strategic gain. It was both. I know. That's why I need you there. The official reports are sanitized. They don't tell the real story. You do. What do you want me to say? The truth. What happened on September 14th, 2015? Why the convoy took the route it did? Why Martinez and the others died? What your team accomplished despite the casualties? Rachel's jaw tightened. We didn't accomplish anything. We lost good people for intelligence that didn't matter. It mattered to the Marines who came after you. The routes you mapped saved lives. The enemy positions you identified prevented future attacks. Martinez didn't die for nothing. Tell that to Kelly. I did, Wolf said quietly. She knows her fiancé was a hero. Now she wants to know the whole story. You're the only one left who can tell it. Rachel was quiet for a long time. Who else survived from Black Tide? 3 others. Sergeant Lucas Vega. He's at Falcon Ridge Hospital in Denver. Lost both legs below the knee. Staff Sergeant Amy Kwan, discharged, living in Seattle, works as a private security consultant. And Lieutenant James Reeves. Rachel's breath caught. Reeves is alive? You didn't know? I thought she'd carried him to the helicopter. He'd been unconscious, so much blood. I thought he didn't make it. He made it, barely. Spent 8 months in recovery, medical retirement. He's teaching high school history now in Phoenix. Rachel felt dizzy. He's alive. All this time you thought you'd failed him. She had. She had thought that. Carried it like a weight. The hearing is November 12th, Wolf continued. I'm reaching out to all the survivors. Vega's already agreed to testify. Kwan's thinking about it. Reeves said no, but I'm still working on him. What if I say no? Then the story gets told by people who weren't there. Politicians who want to use Black Tide to score points. Generals who want to bury their mistakes. You think that's better? I think digging up the past doesn't help anyone. Wrong. It helps the families. It helps the survivors. It helps every future combat medic who's going to face the same impossible choices you did. Your testimony could change how the military trains medics, how they deploy them, how they support them after. Rachel laughed bitterly. You think one hearing is going to change the military? No, but it's a start. She was quiet. There's something else, Wolf said. The night of the attack, there were rumors about who ordered the convoy to take that route, about whether the intelligence was solid. Some people think it was a setup. Rachel went cold. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the possibility that Black Tide was sent into an ambush deliberately, that someone wanted your team eliminated. That's insane. Is it? Your team had discovered something, evidence of weapons trafficking through Helmand Province, high-level corruption. You were scheduled to brief command the day after the attack. We never made it to that briefing. Exactly, and the evidence you'd gathered disappeared. Convoy wreckage was classified. Your reports were sealed. Everyone who knew what you'd found either died or was scattered to different units. Rachel's mind was racing. She remembered the intelligence, the photographs, the intercepted communications. They'd stumbled onto something big, something that implicated people far above their pay grade. You think someone in command set us up, she said slowly. I think it's possible. And if it's true, the families deserve to know. If you're wrong, then I'm wrong. But if I'm right and we do nothing, then those Marines died to protect the people who killed them. Rachel felt sick. I need time to think. You have until November 1st. That's when I need to submit the final witness list. That's a week away. I know. I'm sorry. But the hearing date is set and I can't change it. Rachel hung up without saying goodbye. She sat in the dark hotel room and tried to process everything. Martinez was dead, but Reeves was alive. Black Tide might have been a setup. Someone wanted her to testify. Someone else wanted her to stay silent. And tomorrow she had to stand at her sister's wedding and pretend everything was fine. Her phone buzzed. Text from Amanda. Can't sleep. Too excited. Thank you for being here. Love you. Rachel texted back. Love you too. Then she pulled up her contacts and found Wolf's number. Sent him a text. I need to talk to Reeves. Can you give me his number? The response came fast. I'll reach out to him first. Give me a day. Rachel set the phone down and finally changed out of her clothes. Put on an old t-shirt, lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come. At 4 a.m., she gave up and went for another run. Portland was quiet, pre-dawn gray. She ran along the river until her legs gave out, then walked back to the hotel and showered. By 9 a.m., she was at the venue helping Amanda and the other bridesmaids set up, arranging flowers, hanging decorations, tying ribbons to chairs. Amanda was a nervous wreck. What if it rains? The forecast said clear, but what if they're wrong? Then we move everything inside, Rachel said calmly. What if the caterer is late? Then we start without food. What if I trip walking down the aisle? Then you'll have a funny story to tell your kids. Amanda laughed despite herself. You're so calm. How are you so calm? Because I've been through worse, Rachel thought. Because nothing at a wedding can compare to watching someone bleed out in your arms. But she just smiled and said, someone has to be. The ceremony was at 4. By 3, everything was ready. The barn looked beautiful. String lights, white flowers, wooden benches for the guests. Rachel helped Amanda into her dress, a simple ivory gown that fit perfectly. Did her makeup. Held her hand while she cried happy tears. You look beautiful, Rachel said. I'm getting married. Amanda's voice was full of wonder. I can't believe I'm actually getting married. Marcus is a lucky guy. I'm lucky too. Amanda squeezed Rachel's hand. Thank you for everything. I know work's been crazy and you're exhausted, but you still came and thank you. Rachel hugged her carefully, trying not to mess up her makeup. Wouldn't miss it for anything. The ceremony started right on time. Rachel walked down the aisle ahead of Amanda, holding a bouquet of white roses. The barn was packed. 200 people. She spotted Marcus at the altar, looking nervous and happy. Amanda appeared. Everyone stood. She walked toward Marcus with their father, her face radiant. Rachel watched from the side and felt something shift in her chest. This was real. This was good. This was the life people were supposed to have, not nightmares and classified missions and dead friends. The vows were simple, traditional. Marcus's voice cracked when he said, "I do." Amanda cried through hers. They kissed and everyone cheered. At the reception, Rachel gave her toast. She'd written it that morning in between hanging flowers. "I've known Amanda her whole life," Rachel said. "Watched her grow from a baby who wouldn't stop crying to a woman who won't stop achieving. She's brilliant. She's kind. She's one of the best people I know. And Marcus," she looked at him, "you better take care of her because I know where you live." People laughed. Marcus raised his glass. "I promise." Rachel sat down to applause. The reception rolled on, dancing, cake, too much champagne. Rachel stayed sober and kept an eye on everything, old habits kicking in. At midnight, Amanda and Marcus left for their honeymoon. The guests slowly filtered out. Rachel helped clean up, stacking chairs and gathering centerpieces. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "This is Lieutenant James Reeves. Colonel Wolfe said you wanted to talk." Rachel's heart stopped. She stepped outside the barn into the cool night air, called the number with shaking hands. Reeves answered on the second ring. "Doc?" His voice. She'd know it anywhere. "Yeah," Rachel managed. "It's me." "Holy shit. I thought Wolfe said you disappeared, changed your name. I figured you were dead or didn't want to be found." "Both, kind of." Reeves laughed. It sounded the same as it had 10 years ago. "You saved my life." "You're welcome." "I mean it. The doctor said another 5 minutes and I would have bled out. You carried me 300 yards. 280, Rachel corrected automatically. "Right, because that's better." He paused. "Why'd you disappear?" Rachel looked up at the stars. Clear night, no clouds. "Because I couldn't be that person anymore. The one who did that. Who saw that." "Yeah, I get it." "Do you?" "I teach sophomores about the Civil War now. I wear khakis and drink coffee from a world's best teacher mug. I coach JV soccer. My life is about as far from Afghanistan as it gets." "That sounds nice." "It's boring as hell," Reeves said, "but it's safe. And after everything, safe feels pretty good." Rachel understood that. "Wolfe told you about the hearing?" "Yeah." And I told him no. I'm not interested in reliving that day in front of a bunch of senators who don't know what combat actually looks like. "What if he's right? About the setup?" Reeves was quiet for a long moment. "I've thought about that. A lot. The route we took didn't make sense. The intelligence was thin, and command was weirdly insistent that we go that day, even though weather was bad and we'd requested a delay." "You think someone wanted us dead?" "I think someone wanted us gone. Whether that meant dead or just scattered and unable to testify, I don't know. But yeah, something was off. So why won't you testify? Because even if we prove it was a setup, it won't bring Martinez back. Won't give you your leg back or me my hearing." Reeves had lost partial hearing in his left ear from the blast. "Won't change anything except putting a target on our backs from whoever set us up in the first place. The families deserve to know. The families deserve to heal. And digging up conspiracy theories 10 years later isn't going to help them do that." Rachel wanted to argue. Couldn't. "Are you going to testify?" Reeves asked. "I don't know." "Well, if you do, be careful. Wolfe's a good man, but he's also obsessed. He's been chasing this black tide thing for years. Sometimes I think he cares more about proving his theory than he does about the people who actually lived through it." Rachel's phone buzzed. Another call coming in. She glanced at the screen. Wolfe. "I have to go," she told Reeves. "Stay safe, Doc, and if you ever want to talk about anything, you have my number now." "Thanks." She switched calls. "What?" "Turn on the news," Wolfe said. His voice was tight. "CNN, now." Rachel went back inside the barn, found a laptop someone had left behind, and pulled up CNN. The headline made her blood run cold. "Former Marine Colonel under investigation for corruption." She clicked the article, started reading. Colonel Adrian Wolfe, retired USMC, is under investigation by the Department of Defense. Inspector General for alleged misconduct related to classified operations in Afghanistan between 2014 and 2016. Sources indicate the investigation involves falsified intelligence reports, misappropriation of funds, and unauthorized disclosure of classified information. Wolf could not be reached for comment. Rachel felt like she'd been punched. "What the hell is this?" "A hit job," Wolf said. "Someone found out I was organizing testimony for the hearing. This is them trying to discredit me before I can get you all in front of the committee." "Is any of it true?" "No. But it doesn't have to be. The accusation is enough. By the time I clear my name, the hearing will be over and Black Tide will stay buried." "Who did this?" "I have suspicions. Can't prove anything yet. But Rachel," his voice dropped, "you need to be careful. If they're willing to destroy me, they won't hesitate to come after you next." Rachel's hands went numb. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the people who set up Black Tide are still in power, and they don't want the truth to come out." Before Rachel could respond, her phone died. Battery drained. She stood in the empty barn with a dead phone and Wolf's warning echoing in her head. Outside, car headlights swept across the windows. An engine idled, then cut off. Rachel moved to the window and looked out. A black SUV sat in the parking lot. Government plates. Two men in dark suits got out and started walking toward the barn entrance. Rachel moved away from the window. Her combat instincts kicked in before conscious thought. Assess exits, identify cover, evaluate threats. The barn had a back door near the storage room. Windows on 3 sides. No second floor. Nowhere to hide. The front door opened. "Rachel Morgan?" The first man was early 40s, clean-cut, badge clipped to his belt. FBI maybe. Or DOD investigators. "We need to ask you some questions." Rachel stayed where she was. "About what?" "Your relationship with Colonel Adrian Wolf. Your service record. Black Tide operations." He stepped inside. His partner followed, hand resting near his hip. Not on his weapon. Not yet. "This won't take long. You have a warrant?" "We're conducting a preliminary investigation. Your cooperation would be appreciated." "That's not what I asked." The second man spoke for the first time. "Ma'am, we can do this easy or we can do this hard. Your choice." Rachel's jaw tightened. She'd dealt with men like this before. Men who thought authority was the same as power. Who believed compliance was owed rather than earned. "I'm at my sister's wedding. It's midnight. You show up without identification, without a warrant, and expect me to just follow you somewhere?" "We showed our badges," the first man said. "From 20 feet away in bad light. Could be fake for all I know." The second man's expression hardened. "Are you refusing to cooperate with a federal investigation?" "I'm asking you to come back tomorrow with proper documentation and a lawyer present. That's my right." They exchanged glances. Some unspoken communication passed between them. "Fine," the first man said. "We'll be in touch." They left. The SUV started up and pulled away slowly, headlights cutting through the darkness. Rachel waited until the sound faded completely. Then she found her charger in her bag and plugged her phone in. While it powered up, she checked the barn's back exit. Clear. The parking lot was empty except for 3 cars belonging to the cleanup crew. Her phone came back to life. 17 missed calls. Most from Wolf, 3 from unknown numbers, 1 from Jennifer Martinez. She called Wolf first. "Where are you?" His voice was sharp. "Are you safe?" 2 men just came to the venue, said they wanted to ask me questions about Black Tide." Wolf swore. "Did they identify themselves?" "Showed badges. Could have been DOD. Could have been anyone." "Did you go with them?" "No." "Good. Don't. Rachel, listen to me very carefully. You need to get out of Portland. Tonight. Don't go back to your hotel. Don't use your credit cards. Don't..." "Slow down. What's happening?" "They're moving faster than I expected. The investigation into me is a smokescreen. They're trying to identify all the Black Tide survivors so they can silence us before the hearing." "Silence how?" Wolf was quiet for a beat too long. "However they need to." Rachel felt cold. "You think they'd actually... I think we're talking about people who orchestrated an ambush that killed 8 Marines to cover up corruption. Yes, I think they'd kill a few more to keep that quiet." This is insane. This is the military-industrial complex protecting itself. There's billions of dollars at stake. Reputations, careers, generals who want to retire to defense contractor boards, politicians who took campaign money from the wrong people. Black tide threatened all of that. Rachel's mind raced. The evidence your team found. The weapons trafficking. Who was involved? We don't know for sure, that's why the hearing matters. But the investigation pointed to a logistics officer named Colonel Marcus Brennan. He was routing weapons through Helmand Province to local warlords, then reporting them as lost in combat, making millions. Rachel's stomach dropped. Brennan. As in Kelly Brennan? Martinez's fiancé. Yes, Marcus Brennan was her uncle. He died in a helicopter crash 6 months after black tide. Official story says it was mechanical failure, but the timing, you think they killed him too. I think everyone connected to what black tide discovered has ended up dead or discredited, and now they're coming for the last witnesses. Rachel looked around the empty barn. Suddenly, every shadow seemed threatening. What do I do? Get to Denver. Falcon Ridge 5, a hospital. Lucas Vega is there. He's got protection, VA security, plus I've hired private contractors. You'll be safe there while we figure this out. I can't just disappear. I have a job. A life. You had a life. Now you have a target on your back. Wolf's voice softened. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you wanted, but you're in this whether you like it or not. Those men know who you are. They know where you work. They'll be waiting when you go home. Rachel closed her eyes, thought about her apartment in Ashford, her shifts at Riverside General, the quiet, normal existence she'd built, all of it crashing down because she'd gotten on a plane and sat in first class. How do I get to Denver without using credit cards? I'm wiring cash to a Western Union near you. I'll text you the location. Pick it up first thing tomorrow. Rent a car under a different name if you can. Drive, don't fly. Stay off highways when possible. A different name? I don't have fake ID. You're resourceful. Figure it out. Wolf paused. Rachel, Claire, whoever you are now, I need you alive. The hearing is in 6 days. If we can get you, Vega and Quan, in front of that committee, we have a chance. Otherwise, black tide stays buried and everyone who died for nothing. He hung up. Rachel stood in the barn and tried to process everything. 6 days. Denver, fake ID, people trying to kill her. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Her phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer Martinez. Did Colonel Wolf tell you about my uncle? About what David found? Rachel stared at the message. Typed back, yes. The response came immediately. My mother doesn't know about Uncle Marcus, about any of it. She thinks David died a hero. If this comes out at the hearing, it'll destroy her. Rachel's chest tightened. I'm sorry. Don't testify. Please. Let David rest in peace. Let our family have that much. Rachel didn't respond. She couldn't promise that. Another text, this one from Kelly Brennan. Jennifer told me about the hearing, about my uncle. I don't believe it. Marcus Brennan was a good man. He wouldn't have done what they're accusing him of. Then, if you testify and drag his name through the mud, I'll make sure everyone knows you're the one who let David die. Rachel felt like she'd been slapped. She started to type a response, then stopped. What could she say? Kelly was grieving, angry, looking for someone to blame, and maybe she was right to blame Rachel. Maybe if Rachel had been faster, smarter, better, Martinez would have lived. She deleted the draft and pocketed her phone. The cleanup crew was leaving. They waved goodbye. Rachel waved back, smiling like everything was fine. Then she was alone. She gathered her things, the small carry-on bag, her dead battery laptop, the bridesmaid dress she'd need to return. Her hands were shaking again. She forced them still. Think, plan, move. First, get out of Portland. Wolf was right about that much. Staying here made her a sitting target. Second, get to Denver. Find Vega. Figure out what the hell was actually happening. Third, decide whether to testify or disappear for real this time. She called an Uber, waited outside the barn in the cold October air. When the car arrived, she had the driver take her to a 24-hour diner near the airport instead of her hotel. The diner was nearly empty. Just a tired waitress and a truck driver nursing coffee at the counter. Rachel ordered eggs she didn't want and used the free Wi-Fi to look up Western Union locations. Found one that opened at 7 a.m. She had 6 hours to kill. She sat in a corner booth and tried to think. The two men at the barn, had they been federal agents or something else? Their badges had looked real, but so did a lot of things that weren't. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Yeah? Is this Rachel Morgan? A woman's voice, older, formal. Who's asking? My name is Senator Elizabeth Harmon. I chair the Armed Services Committee. I understand Colonel Wolf has been in contact with you about testifying at our hearing. Rachel went very still. How did you get this number? I have access to resources Colonel Wolf doesn't. Ms. Morgan, or should I call you Ms. Donovan? I'm calling to warn you. Wolf is not who he says he is. I'm listening. He's obsessed with black tide, has been for a decade. He believes there was a conspiracy to eliminate your unit. He's convinced himself that high-ranking military officials orchestrated the attack. But there's no evidence, just paranoia and grief. Why are you telling me this? Because he's going to get you killed. Harmon's voice was calm, reasonable. The people he's accusing are powerful. They don't take kindly to baseless accusations. If you testify and repeat Wolf's theories, you'll make enemies you can't afford. What if his theories are true? They're not. We've investigated thoroughly. The ambush on September 14th was a tragedy, but it was not a conspiracy. Your convoy took a known dangerous route based on faulty intelligence. People made mistakes, but mistakes aren't murder. Rachel thought about the route they'd taken, the intelligence that hadn't made sense, the way command had insisted they go despite weather warnings. What do you want from me? Rachel asked. I want you to think carefully before you destroy your life. You've built something in Ashford, a career, a future. Testifying will end all of that, the media attention, the scrutiny, the people who will call you a liar or a traitor or worse. Is that really worth it to chase a conspiracy theory? And if I don't testify, then you go home, back to your hospital, back to your life. We'll make sure you're left alone. No more visits from investigators, no more harassment from Wolf. Just peace. It sounded good, too good. What about the other survivors? Rachel asked. Vega's already decided not to testify. Quan never responded to Wolf's outreach. Reeves told him no. You're the last one. If you say no, this all goes away. Rachel's instincts screamed that something was wrong. If there's no conspiracy, why do you care whether I testify or not? Harmon was quiet for a moment. Because I don't want to see another veteran destroyed by PTSD and paranoid delusions. Wolf has convinced himself that your team's deaths meant something, that there was a reason. But sometimes there is no reason. Sometimes people just die. I'll think about it. Don't think too long. The hearing is in 6 days. After that, the opportunity to walk away disappears. Harmon hung up. Rachel sat in the diner booth and tried to figure out who was lying. Wolf with his conspiracy theories? Or Harmon with her reassurances? Maybe both. Maybe neither. She pulled up news articles on her phone, searched for Marcus Brennan and helicopter crash, and Afghanistan 2016. Found a short article from Stars and Stripes. Colonel Marcus Brennan killed in training accident, survived by wife and 2 daughters. Decorated officer. 15 years of service. Nothing about corruption or weapons trafficking. Nothing about black tide. She searched for Elizabeth Harmon, senator, senior senator from Virginia. Armed Services Committee chair for 8 years, former JAG officer. Known for being tough on defense spending, but supportive of veterans' issues. Clean record. No obvious scandals. But that didn't mean anything. The people involved in covering up black tide would be the ones with clean records. That was the whole point. Rachel's phone buzzed again. Text from Wolf. Western Union is at 451 Morrison Street. Cash will be ready at 7 a.m. $5,000. Use it wisely. Then another. Don't trust anyone who tells you to walk away. They're scared of what you know. Rachel deleted both messages. She stayed at the diner until 6:30 a.m., drank bad coffee and watched the sunrise through dirty windows. Then she walked to the Western Union and picked up the cash. The clerk asked for ID. Rachel showed her driver's license and signed the form. $5,000 in hundreds. She split it between her wallet, her bag, and her bra. If someone robbed her, they wouldn't get it all. Next problem. Transportation. Renting a car required ID and a credit card. Both would leave a trail. She walked to a used car lot that was just opening. A salesman approached with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Help you with something? I need a car. Cash deal. Something that runs. His smile widened. We can work with cash. What's your budget? $3,000. He showed her a 2008 Honda Civic with 140,000 miles and a dent in the rear panel. The engine sounded rough, but it started. The interior smelled like cigarettes and regret. $2,000, Rachel said. $2,500 and I'll throw in a full tank of gas. Deal. She handed over the cash. Signed paperwork under her real name because Oregon required a title transfer and she didn't have fake documents. The salesman didn't care. Cash was cash. By 8 a.m., she was driving east on I-84 with everything she owned in a carry-on bag and a dead phone charging from the car's cigarette lighter. Denver was 1,000 miles away. 16 hours if she pushed it. She'd need to stop for gas, food, bathroom breaks. Figure out where to sleep tonight. Her phone came back to life. More missed calls, more messages. She ignored them all and pulled up directions to Falcon Ridge 5, a hospital. The drive through Oregon was beautiful in a way that made her chest hurt. Mountains, rivers, pine forests that stretched forever. She'd forgotten what the world looked like outside of hospital walls and city streets. Somewhere near the Idaho border, her phone rang. She almost didn't answer, but the caller ID said Amanda. Hey, Rachel said, trying to sound normal. Where are you? I went by your hotel to have breakfast and they said you checked out this morning. Is everything okay? Rachel's throat tightened. Work emergency. I had to head back early. On the morning after my wedding? Rach, come on. What's really going on? I can't explain right now. Try. Rachel considered telling her everything, the whole insane story. But Amanda had just gotten married. She was probably still in her honeymoon glow, thinking about the future. She didn't need her sister's past dragging her down. I'm handling something, Rachel said finally. Something from a long time ago. It's complicated, and I promise I'll explain when I can, but right now I just need you to trust me. Amanda was quiet. Then, does this have to do with what happened on the plane, with that colonel? Yeah. Are you in trouble? I don't know yet. Do you need help? Rachel almost said yes. Almost asked Amanda to wire money or find a lawyer or do something, anything. But dragging her sister into this felt wrong. I'm okay, Rachel lied. I'll call you in a few days. I love you. I love you too. Be careful. Rachel hung up and wiped her eyes. Kept driving. She stopped for gas in Boise, paid cash, used the restroom and bought a sandwich she ate standing up in the parking lot, back on the road by noon. Her phone buzzed constantly. She finally turned it off. Whatever Wolf or Harmon or anyone else wanted could wait. The landscape changed as she drove. Mountains gave way to high desert. The trees thinned out. The sky got bigger. By the time she crossed into Wyoming, the world felt empty in a way that was both peaceful and terrifying. She thought about Martinez, about Reeves and Vega, and everyone else from Black Tide, about the choices that had led to that convoy and that ambush and all those deaths, about whether testifying would actually change anything or just get more people killed. Somewhere near Rawlins, Wyoming, she pulled over at a rest stop, sat in the parking lot, and turned her phone back on. 23 missed calls, 14 voicemails. She played the first one. Wolf, Rachel, where are you? I need to know you're safe. Call me back. Second, Wolf again. Jennifer Martinez is getting death threats. Someone leaked her information online. If they're going after the families, they'll come after you next. Get to Denver, now. Third, unknown number. A man's voice, digitally distorted. Stop digging. Walk away while you still can. Fourth, Harmon. Miss Morgan, I heard about the threats against the Martinez family. This is exactly what I was warning you about. Please reconsider. Fifth, Kelly Brennan, crying. They're saying terrible things about David online, about me, about my uncle. Please make it stop. Just make it stop. Rachel deleted all of them and called Wolf. He answered before the first ring finished. Thank God. Where are you? Wyoming. Few hours from Denver. What happened to Jennifer? Someone doxed her, posted her address, phone number, workplace. She's been getting threatening calls all night. Local police are involved, but they can't do much. Who did it? We don't know, but it's a message. To her, to you, to all of us. Stop talking or face consequences. Rachel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. This is out of control. It's been out of control for 10 years. We're just finally seeing it. Wolf's voice dropped. Vega's waiting for you. 3rd floor, room 317. I've got security outside his door. You'll be safe there. And then what? And then we prepare. 5 days until the hearing. We need to coordinate testimony, go through evidence, make sure we're all telling the same story. What if I don't want to testify? Wolf was quiet for a long moment. Then Jennifer keeps getting death threats. Kelly keeps blaming herself. The Marines who died stay forgotten, and the people who orchestrated their deaths get away with it. That's not fair. None of this is fair. But it's real. And you're one of 3 people left who can do something about it. Rachel hung up and sat in the car, watching traffic flow past on the interstate. Normal people going to normal places, living normal lives where the hardest choice was what to have for dinner. She started the car and kept driving. Denver appeared on the horizon just after 7 p.m. City lights against darkening sky. She followed GPS to Falcon Ridge 5, a hospital, a sprawling complex on the eastern edge of the city. Security stopped her at the gate. Name and purpose? Rachel Morgan. I'm here to see Lucas Vega. The guard checked a list. You're expected. Park in visitor lot C. Enter through the main entrance. Someone will meet you. The someone turned out to be a private security contractor, ex-military, obvious from the way he carried himself. He escorted her through the hospital without speaking until they reached the 3rd floor. Room 317. Vega's expecting you. I'll be outside if you need anything. He took up position by the door. Rachel knocked. A voice from inside said, "Come in." She pushed the door open. Lucas Vega sat in a wheelchair by the window, backlit by the last of the sunset. He'd aged in 10 years, gray in his beard, lines around his eyes, but his smile was the same. "Doc," he said. "Damn. Wolf said you changed your name, but you still look like you." Rachel closed the door behind her. "Hey, Vega. It's been a long time." "Yeah." He gestured to a chair. "Sit. Tell me why you're here. And don't say it's just to say hi, because we both know better." Rachel sat, looked at where his legs ended below the knee. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For not being fast enough, for not—" "Stop." Vega's voice was firm. "You carried Reeves 300 yards. You pulled Kim from a burning vehicle. You did triage on 8 casualties with no backup and no equipment. You don't get to apologize for not being superhuman." Rachel looked away. "You lost your legs." "I lost my legs to an IED, not to you. Big difference." He wheeled closer. "Wolf told me you disappeared after you got home. Changed your name. Became a civilian nurse. I couldn't be that person anymore." "I get it. I tried to be normal for a while, too. Didn't work. Normal people don't understand. They see the wheelchair and say sorry and move on. They don't want to know what it was like. Don't want to hear about the sand and the blood and the sound IEDs make right before they detonate." Rachel nodded. She understood that perfectly. "So I stopped trying to be normal," Vega continued. "Moved in here. Work with other veterans. Physical therapy. Counseling groups. It's not the life I planned, but it's a life. Wolf wants us to testify." "I know, I already said yes." Rachel looked at him. "Why?" "Because Martinez and Kim and the others deserve better than being footnotes in a classified report. Because if there really was a conspiracy, the people responsible need to face consequences. And because I'm tired of living with the weight of that day. Maybe testifying won't fix anything, but at least I'll have tried. What if it makes things worse? How could it be worse? Jennifer Martinez is getting death threats. Kelly Brennan thinks her dead fiance's memory is being destroyed. Reeves teaches high school and pretends Afghanistan never happened. You changed your name and spent 10 years running. We're already living in worse." Rachel didn't have an answer for that. "Are you going to testify?" Vega asked. I don't know. Everyone keeps telling me different things. Wolf says it's the only way to get justice. Harmon says it'll destroy my life. The families are split. I don't know who to believe. So don't believe anyone. Make your own choice based on what you think is right. I don't know what's right anymore. Vega smiled sadly. Yeah, that's combat for you. Turns all the clear lines into gray areas. He wheeled to a desk and picked up a folder, handed it to Rachel. Wolf left this for you. Evidence, reports, photographs, everything he's gathered about Black Tide. Rachel opened the folder. The first page was a mission brief from September 13th, 2015, the day before the ambush. She started reading. The convoy route had been changed at the last minute. Originally, they were supposed to take Highway 1, a main road, heavily trafficked, relatively safe. But Command had ordered a detour through Sanguine Valley. Narrower roads, less visibility, known insurgent territory. The official reason, intelligence suggested a high-value target in the area. They were to investigate and report back. But the intelligence was thin, single source, unverified. The kind of tip that normally would have been flagged for further investigation before sending troops. Rachel flipped pages. Found after-action reports. Casualty lists. Photographs of the destroyed convoy. Then she found something that made her blood run cold. A memo dated September 20th, 2015, 6 days after the ambush. From Colonel Marcus Brennan to his commanding general. Recommend Black Tide personnel be dispersed to separate units immediately. Operational security concerns. Further details available upon request. The team had been deliberately scattered, sent to different bases, different countries, made it impossible for them to compare notes or coordinate stories. You see it now, Vega said quietly. Rachel looked up. Brennan gave the order to split us up. Less than a week after the attack, before any of us were even out of the hospital. Why would he do that unless he was trying to prevent us from talking? The investigation into him, the weapons trafficking, when did that start? According to Wolf's files, 10 days before the ambush. The Black Tide team had been gathering evidence for 3 weeks. You were scheduled to brief command on September 15th, the day after you were supposed to die. Rachel felt sick. How did Wolf get all this? He's been filing Freedom of Information requests for years, sued the DoD twice. Most of it's redacted, but there's enough to see the pattern. Rachel kept reading, found more memos, more orders, a paper trail that showed someone had been very carefully managing the Black Tide survivors. Reeves transferred to Germany within 2 weeks. Vega sent to Walter Reed. Amy Kwan deployed to South Korea. Claire Donovan, Rachel's old identity, given a medical discharge and a sealed service record. All of them kept separate. All of them kept quiet. There's more, Vega said. He handed her another folder, Brennan's autopsy report. Rachel opened it. The official cause of death was blunt force trauma from a helicopter crash. But there were notes in the margins, questions from the medical examiner, injuries inconsistent with reported crash dynamics, evidence of pre-existing trauma. Recommend further investigation. The recommendation had been denied. They killed him, Rachel said quietly. Probably, can't prove it. But yeah, I think once they realized their cover-up was falling apart, they eliminated the one person who could directly implicate them. Rachel closed the folder. Her hands were shaking again. Who's they? That's the question Wolf's been trying to answer for 10 years. He thinks it goes higher than Brennan, maybe generals, maybe Pentagon officials, maybe defense contractors, whoever was profiting from the weapons trafficking. And now they're trying to stop the hearing. Wouldn't you? If you'd killed a dozen people to hide your crimes and suddenly the survivors were about to testify in front of Congress? Rachel stood up, walked to the window. Denver sprawled below, lights flickering on as night fell. Somewhere out there, Jennifer Martinez was scared for her life. Kelly Brennan was mourning a fiancé who'd died to protect his uncle's crimes. Reeves was teaching high school and pretending none of this ever happened. And Rachel, Claire, whoever she was, had a choice to make. Stay silent and stay safe. Or speak up and risk everything. What happens if we testify and they come after us? Rachel asked. Then we deal with it, same as we dealt with everything else in Afghanistan, one day at a time, one threat at a time. That's not a plan. No, Vega agreed, but it's all we've got. Rachel's phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Last warning. Walk away or face the consequences. You have 24 hours. She showed it to Vega. He read it and handed the phone back. Guess they're getting nervous. Guess so. You scared? Rachel thought about it. Yeah. Terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Vega wheeled to a safe in the corner, opened it, and pulled out a handgun. Take this. I can't. You can, and you will. Someone's threatening your life. You have a right to defend yourself. Rachel took the gun, checked the magazine automatically. 15 rounds, safety on. Glock 19, standard issue. It felt familiar in her hand. Too familiar. I haven't fired a weapon in 10 years, she said. Muscle memory. It'll come back if you need it. Rachel slipped the gun into her bag. It felt heavy, wrong, but necessary. What now? She asked. Now we wait. Wolf's working on getting Amy Kwan here. If we can get all three of us coordinated, we'll have a stronger case, harder to discredit. You think she'll come? I don't know. Last I heard, she was living off the grid in the Cascades. No phone, no internet. Wolf sent someone to find her, but... The door burst open. The security contractor stumbled in, blood streaming from his temple. Behind him, 2 men in tactical gear and ski masks. Vega went for his wheelchair's armrest. There was a weapon mounted there, but the first man was faster. Taser. Vega convulsed and fell from his chair. Rachel's hand went to her bag, found the Glock, pulled it free. The second man had his own weapon up. Don't! Rachel froze. Her finger on the trigger. Safety off. Sight picture perfect. Center mass, just like they'd trained her. Drop it, the man said. Rachel's mind raced. 2 of them. 1 of her. Vega down. Security contractor bleeding. Hospital full of veterans and staff. Firing would put everyone at risk. She lowered the gun slowly. The first man crossed the room in 2 steps and ripped it from her hand. Hit her across the face with it. Rachel went down, tasted blood. Her vision doubled. Vega was groaning, trying to move. The first man tasered him again. Stop! Rachel tried to get up, got kicked in the ribs for her trouble. Something cracked. She curled around the pain. The second man zip-tied her wrists, pulled her to her feet. You should have walked away, he said. They dragged her toward the door. She fought, got an elbow into someone's stomach, got hit again. The world tilted, went gray. The last thing she saw before everything went dark was Vega reaching for her, blood on his face, her name on his lips. Rachel woke up to the smell of mildew and concrete. Her head throbbed. Her ribs screamed every time she breathed. She was sitting in a metal chair, zip ties cutting into her wrists behind her back. The room was small, windowless, single door, fluorescent light overhead that buzzed like a dying insect. Industrial space, maybe a warehouse, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry. One of the masked men stood against the wall, arms crossed. The mask was off now. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe 30, clean-shaven. Could have been anyone. She's awake, he called. The door opened. A woman walked in. Mid-50s, perfectly styled gray hair, expensive suit. Rachel recognized her from the news articles. Senator Elizabeth Harmon. Ms. Morgan, Harmon said. Or should I call you Ms. Donovan? I'm never quite sure which name you prefer. Rachel's vision was still blurry. She blinked hard, trying to focus. Where's Vega? Alive. For now. Whether he stays that way depends entirely on your cooperation. What do you want? Harmon pulled up a folding chair and sat down across from Rachel, close enough to be intimate, far enough to stay safe. I want you to understand something. Black Tide was a mistake, not the mission itself, the fact that you survived it. 8 Marines died that day. You, Vega, Reeves, and Kwan should have died with them. Rachel's blood went cold. You ordered the ambush. I facilitated certain logistical decisions that made the ambush possible. There's a difference. You killed them. I protected a revenue stream worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Marcus Brennan's operation kept weapons flowing to assets we needed in the region. Your team discovered that. Your team was going to expose it, so your team had to be eliminated. Harmon spoke like she was discussing quarterly earnings. Unfortunately, military operations are messy. 4 of you survived. We've been managing that problem for 10 years. Rachel tested the zip ties. Tight. No give. Managing how? Scattered you across the globe. Sealed your records. Monitored your communications. When you went quiet, changed your name, stopped making noise, we let you be. Same with the others. As long as you stayed silent, you could live. And now? Now Adrian Wolf has convinced you that testifying will accomplish something. It won't. Even if you get in front of that committee, your testimony will be discredited. We have psychiatrists ready to testify about your PTSD, documentation of paranoid episodes, a history of instability that calls everything you say into question. Rachel's jaw tightened. People will believe us. Some will. Most won't. And the ones who matter, the ones with actual power, already know the truth. They're complicit. You think weapons trafficking happens without Pentagon approval? Without congressional oversight? We all get rich together, Ms. Donovan. That's how it works. Then why are you here? If I'm so irrelevant, why kidnap me? Harmon smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Because I'd prefer clean solutions. You disappearing is cleaner than you testifying and having to be discredited publicly. It saves everyone time and money. You're going to kill me. I'm going to give you a choice. Walk away, truly walk away this time, and live. We'll set you up somewhere new, new identity, new life. Money in the bank. You can start over in a city where nobody knows Claire Donovan or Rachel Morgan. Or, Harmon leaned forward. You can refuse, force our hand, and we'll eliminate you the same way we eliminated Marcus Brennan. Rachel thought fast. Harmon was talking too much, giving too many details. That meant she didn't expect Rachel to leave this room alive either way. What about Vega? Rachel asked. Reeves? Kwan? They'll be offered the same choice. Disappear or die. And if we all choose to disappear? Then Black Tide stays buried. The hearing happens without witnesses. Wolf gets exposed as a paranoid obsessive. Everything goes back to normal. Rachel looked at the young man by the wall. He was watching her with flat eyes. Professional. He'd done this before. How many people have you killed? Rachel asked Harmon. Personally, none. I'm a senator. I have people for that. She stood up. I'll give you 12 hours to think about it. Then I need an answer. I'll testify. Harmon paused at the door. I don't think you understand what's at stake. I understand perfectly. You orchestrated the murder of 8 Marines to protect a weapons trafficking operation. You've spent 10 years covering it up, and you're scared that if the truth comes out, you lose everything, your career, your freedom, probably your life, because people like you don't do well in federal prison. Bold words from someone in zip ties. You're not going to let me go either way. You've already decided to kill me. So yeah, I'll testify, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you did. Harmon studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded to the young man. Proceed with the original plan. She left. The young man pushed off the wall, pulled out a knife. Rachel's heart hammered. She tried to stand. The chair was bolted to the floor. He walked behind her. She tensed, waiting for the blade. Instead, he cut the zip ties. Rachel's hands came free. She spun around, confused. The young man held up his phone. On the screen was a recording app, still running. Name's Michael Torres, he said quietly. DOD Criminal Investigation Division. Undercover for 18 months. Senator Harmon just confessed to orchestrating the Black Tide ambush. We got it all. Rachel stared at him. What? Adrian Wolf isn't the only one who's been investigating. He's loud. I'm quiet. We've been building a case against Harmon and her network for 2 years. We needed someone to get her talking. Figured if she thought she had you cornered, she'd slip up. You used me as bait. Yes. Rachel's hands were shaking. From relief or rage, she couldn't tell. Vega? Safe. The attack on the hospital was staged. He's with federal marshals right now. The death threats? Jennifer Martinez? Real. Harmon's people trying to scare everyone into silence. We've got them under protection now. Rachel sat down hard. The adrenaline was wearing off. Everything hurt. Why didn't you tell me? Because we needed your reaction to be genuine. If you'd known it was a setup, Harmon would have sensed it. She's smart. She's careful. This is the first mistake she's made in 10 years. The door opened again. Federal agents poured in. Real ones this time, badges and body armor and weapons drawn. They moved past Rachel like she wasn't there. "Senator Elizabeth Harmon," one of them called into the hallway. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, and violations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice." Rachel heard Harmon's voice from somewhere outside. Sharp, angry. "You have no authority. We have 18 months of recorded conversations, financial records, and a full confession from 30 seconds ago. We have plenty of authority." They brought Harmon back through the room in handcuffs. She saw Rachel and stopped. "This isn't over," Harmon said. Rachel stood up, walked over until they were face to face. "Yeah, it is." She hit her, hard, right cross that came from 10 years of buried rage. Harmon went down. The agents pulled Rachel back. "Ma'am, you can't—" "Sorry." Rachel wasn't sorry. Her hand hurt like hell, but it was worth it. They took Harmon away. Torres stayed behind. "You should get medical attention," he said, eyeing the blood on Rachel's face the way she was holding her ribs. "Where's Wolf?" "Washington, D.C., preparing for the hearing." "It's still happening?" "Absolutely. Now we have evidence to back up the testimony. Harmon wasn't working alone. We've identified 4 other senators, 2 generals, and a dozen defense contractors involved in the weapons trafficking. The hearing will expose all of them." Rachel felt dizzy. "I need to sit down." Torres helped her to a chair. A medic appeared with a kit and started checking her injuries. Possible concussion, definitely cracked ribs, bruising. Nothing life-threatening. "Can I go?" Rachel asked. "We need you to give a statement first." "Then, yes. We'll provide transportation wherever you need to go." Rachel gave her statement in a federal building downtown, sat across from investigators and told them everything. The flight, Wolf's approach, the folders, Vega's hospital room, Harmon's confession. It took 3 hours. By the time they finished, it was midnight. Torres walked her out to a waiting car. "We'll need you in Washington, D.C. for the hearing," he said. 4 days from now, we'll arrange travel and security." "What about the others?" "Vega, Reeves, Quan?" "Vega's already en route to D.C. Reeves changed his mind after hearing about the arrest. He's flying in tomorrow." "Quan?" Torres smiled slightly. "Quan walked into a federal building in Seattle 2 hours ago with her own evidence. She's been investigating independently for years, has files we didn't even know existed." Rachel felt something loosen in her chest. They were all coming, all the survivors. Finally telling the truth together. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you rest. Heal. Prepare your testimony, and in 4 days you stand in front of Congress and tell them what really happened on September 14th, 2015. The car took her to a hotel near the federal building. Secure floor, marshals outside her door. She collapsed on the bed, still wearing her clothes, and slept for 14 hours straight. She woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee someone had left outside her door. Her phone, returned by the feds, showed dozens of messages. News alerts, texts from Amanda and Marcus, one from Jennifer Martinez. "Thank you." Rachel called Wolf. "You're alive," he said. Relief thick in his voice. "Torres briefed me. Are you okay?" "Cracked ribs, bruises. I'll live." "Harmon's in federal custody. They're arresting the others today. This is bigger than I thought. Bigger than Black Tide. They've been running weapons for 8 years. How many people died?" "We don't know yet. Maybe hundreds, maybe thousands. But because of you, it's over." Rachel didn't feel victorious, just tired. "I didn't do anything except get kidnapped. You refused to back down. Even when Harmon offered you a way out, you chose the truth. That matters." Rachel was quiet for a moment. "I need to talk to the families. Martinez, Brennan, the others." "They'll be at the hearing. You can—" "No, before that. They deserve to hear it from me directly." Wolf gave her the contact information. Rachel spent the next day making calls. Jennifer Martinez answered on the first ring. "Is it true? About Senator Harmon?" "It's true. She orchestrated the ambush. She's the reason your brother died." Jennifer was crying. Rachel heard her mother in the background asking what was wrong. I don't know what to feel, Jennifer said. I'm angry. I'm relieved. I don't know. That's normal. Will you tell me about him? About David? What he was really like? So Rachel did. Told her about Martinez's smile, his terrible jokes, the way he talked about his fiancée like she'd hung the moon, how he'd been brave and kind and scared just like everyone else. He died trying to help someone, Rachel said. He saw Kim trapped in the Humvee and ran toward the fire. That's who he was. Someone who ran toward danger to help others. Thank you, Jennifer whispered, for trying to save him, for remembering him. The call with Kelly Brennan was harder. My uncle was part of it, Kelly said. Her voice was flat, empty. He was trafficking weapons. David died because of him. I'm sorry. Are you? Because you're the one who exposed it. You're the one who's destroying his memory. Rachel closed her eyes. Your uncle made his choices. David died because of those choices. I'm just making sure people know the truth. The truth ruins everything. I'd rather have kept the lie. I know, but the lie was killing us, all of us. This way, at least, we can grieve honestly. Kelly hung up without saying goodbye. Rachel called Reeves next. He answered with a laugh. Doc, heard you punched a senator. She had it coming. Damn right she did. I'm flying to D.C. tomorrow. First time I've been back there since my discharge. You okay with this? Testifying? No, but I'm doing it anyway. For Martinez, for Kim, for all of them. He paused. Vega told me what Harmon said, about how we should have died with the others. That's been eating at me. I've spent 10 years feeling guilty for surviving. Now I find out they actually wanted me dead, and I don't know. It's clarifying. How so? I survived for a reason. Maybe not a grand cosmic reason, but a reason. To tell this story, to make sure those Marines didn't die in vain. That's enough. Rachel understood that. See you in D.C. See you there, Doc. The next 3 days blurred together. Rachel flew to Washington under federal protection, stayed in a hotel near Capitol Hill, met with the investigative team to coordinate testimony, went over evidence, prepared for the questions senators would ask. The night before the hearing, all 4 survivors gathered in a conference room. Rachel, Vega, Reeves, and Amy Kwan. Kwan was exactly what Rachel remembered. Compact, sharp-eyed, coiled energy barely contained. She'd gone gray early, wore it in a severe ponytail. 10 years, Kwan said, looking at them. 10 years and we're finally in the same room again. Feels surreal, Reeves agreed. Vega raised a coffee cup. To the ones who didn't make it. To Martinez, Rachel said. To Kim, Reeves added. To Reynolds, Davidson, Porter, Hayes, Kwan finished. They drank in silence. Tomorrow's going to be ugly, Kwan said. Defense lawyers are going to tear into us, call us liars, bring up our service records, our medical histories, every mistake we've ever made. Let them, Vega said. We've got the truth. That's all we need. Rachel wasn't so sure, but she didn't say it. The hearing started at 9 a.m. The Senate Armed Services Committee chamber was packed. Media, families, veterans groups. Rachel sat at a long table with Vega, Reeves, and Kwan. Wolf sat behind them. Torres and other investigators filled the rows. Senator Richard Moss, who'd taken over as committee chair after Harmon's arrest, called the session to order. We're here to investigate Operation Black Tide and related allegations of corruption within the Department of Defense. The committee has reviewed extensive evidence provided by DoD Criminal Investigations Division. Today, we'll hear testimony from the surviving members of the Black Tide team. For the next 6 hours, they talked. Rachel described the mission, the last-minute route change, the ambush, carrying Reeves through enemy fire, Martinez dying in the sand. Vega testified about the weapons trafficking evidence they'd gathered. The photographs of trucks loaded with American weapons heading to insurgent-controlled territory. The ledgers showing millions of dollars in unaccounted-for sales. Reeves explained the chain of command, how orders had come down from Colonel Brennan through compromised channels, how their team had been isolated and set up. Kwan presented the evidence she'd been gathering independently. Financial records linking Harman to shell companies, communication intercepts, testimony from Afghan sources who'd witnessed the trafficking firsthand. Defense attorneys tried to break them, questioned their memories, their motives, their mental health. "Isn't it true, Miss Morgan, that you've been diagnosed with PTSD?" one lawyer asked. "Yes." "And doesn't that condition affect memory, perception of events?" "It affects how I sleep at night. It doesn't change what happened on September 14th, 2015. "But you can't be certain. I'm certain 8 Marines died. I'm certain we were sent into an ambush. I'm certain Senator Harman confessed to orchestrating it. Those are facts, not perceptions." The lawyer backed down. By 5 p.m., it was over. The committee recessed for deliberation. Rachel stepped outside the chamber and found Jennifer and Kelly waiting. Jennifer hugged her. "Thank you for telling David's story." Kelly stood apart, arms crossed, but her expression had softened. "I'm sorry for what I said before. You were right. The truth is better than the lie." "I'm sorry about your uncle," Rachel said. "So am I." The committee's decision came 3 days later. Full investigation into the weapons trafficking network, criminal referrals for everyone involved, recommendations for policy changes, and how the military handles classified operations and whistleblower protections. Harman pleaded guilty to avoid trial. Got 25 years. 4 other senators resigned. 2 generals faced court-martial. The defense contractors involved saw their government contracts canceled and their executives indicted. The 8 Marines who died in the Black Tide ambush were posthumously awarded Silver Stars. Their families finally got answers, finally got closure. Rachel flew back to Ashford 2 weeks later. She'd been gone almost a month. The hospital had held her job, barely. Her supervisor called her into the office the first day back. "I saw you on TV," he said. "Testifying before Congress." "Yeah." "You're a war hero." Rachel shook her head. "I'm a nurse who did her job." "Same thing." He smiled. "Welcome back. We missed you." Rachel returned to her shifts, to the ER, to the familiar rhythm of trauma and healing. But something had changed. She didn't carry the weight the same way anymore. Martinez and the others weren't ghosts now. They were memories. Honored. Remembered. At peace. 3 months later, Rachel received an invitation to Arlington National Cemetery. A memorial dedication for the Black Tide team. All 8 fallen Marines, their names carved in stone, their service recognized. She flew to D.C. with Vega, Reeves, and Kwan. They stood together in the cold December air while generals and politicians gave speeches about sacrifice and honor. Then Jennifer Martinez stepped forward. "My brother David wanted to come home and get married. He wanted kids. He wanted to coach Little League and embarrass them at school events and be the dad who grilled too much food at barbecues." Her voice broke. "He didn't get that. But because of the people who served with him, because they refused to let the truth stay buried, he gets this. His name on stone. His story told honestly. His death meaning something." She looked directly at Rachel. "Thank you for not giving up on him." After the ceremony, Rachel stood alone at the memorial, traced Martinez's name with her finger. Footsteps behind her, she turned. Ethan Caldwell, the businessman from the plane. He looked older, smaller somehow. "Miss Morgan," he said quietly, "I saw the news, about the hearing, about everything." Rachel waited. "I wanted to apologize, properly, for how I treated you on that flight. I was arrogant and cruel, and you didn't deserve it." "You already apologized, on the plane. That was before I knew who you really were. This is after, when it actually counts." He met her eyes. "You're a better person than I'll ever be, and I'm sorry I couldn't see that immediately." Rachel nodded. Apology accepted. Caldwell left. Rachel turned back to the memorial. "Did you hear that, Martinez?" she said softly. "We got them. All of them. You can rest now." The wind picked up, cold and sharp. But Rachel didn't move. She stood there until the sun set and the other families left, and she was alone with the names carved in stone. 8 Marines who died for nothing, who now died for something. She touched the stone one last time. Then she walked away. Behind her, carved into granite, a simple line. They served with honor. They died for truth. They will not be forgotten. The flight back to Ashford was quiet. Rachel sat in coach this time. Didn't need first class anymore. Didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The woman next to her was reading a romance novel. The man across the aisle was asleep. Normal people living normal lives. Rachel envied them for about 30 seconds. Then she remembered what normal had cost her. 10 years of hiding, 10 years of pretending, 10 years of carrying dead friends like stones in her chest. She'd choose the truth over that kind of normal any day. Her phone buzzed as the plane touched down. Text from Amanda. Saw you on the news again. The memorial looked beautiful. When are you coming to visit? We miss you. Rachel typed back. Soon, promise. Another text, this one from Wolf. DOD. Just announced policy changes. All combat medics will now receive additional combat training and trauma support. They're calling it the Black Tide Protocol. Thought you should know. Rachel stared at the message. The Black Tide Protocol. Martinez and the others would live on in every medic who came after them. Every life saved because someone was better trained, better equipped, better supported. It wasn't enough to bring them back, but it was something. She took an Uber from the airport straight to Riverside General. Her apartment could wait. She'd been away too long, and the ER wouldn't run itself. The charge nurse looked up when Rachel walked in. You're back. I'm back. Good. We're slammed. Trauma Bay 2 needs you. Rachel dropped her bag in her locker and pulled on fresh scrubs, the familiar weight of her stethoscope around her neck, the hospital smell of antiseptic and floor wax and too many people in too small a space. She walked into Trauma Bay 2 and got to work. A car accident. 19-year-old driver. His girlfriend in the passenger seat. The driver had a lacerated spleen. The girlfriend had a compound fracture and possible internal bleeding. Rachel worked fast, assessed injuries, started IVs coordinated with the trauma surgeon. Within 20 minutes, both patients were stable and heading to the OR. The driver's mother arrived as they were wheeling him away. She grabbed Rachel's arm. Is he going to be okay? The surgeon will do everything possible. But will he live? Rachel looked at this woman who was about to lose her mind waiting for news about her son, saw every military mother who'd gotten a flag instead of their child, saw Maria Martinez standing at her son's grave. He's got a good chance, Rachel said. Your son's young, strong. The team here is excellent, but I can't promise anything except that we'll fight for him. The mother nodded, started crying. Rachel stayed with her until a chaplain arrived to take over. The shift ran long, 14 hours straight. By the time Rachel clocked out, it was nearly midnight. She walked to her car in the dark parking lot and felt the exhaustion in her bones. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Rachel Morgan? A young woman's voice, uncertain. Speaking. My name is Sarah Kim. My father was Sergeant Peter Kim. He died in Afghanistan in 2015. I saw you at the memorial. I wanted to... Her voice broke. I wanted to thank you for trying to save him, for making sure people knew his name. Rachel leaned against her car. Your father was a good man. Brave. He ran into a burning vehicle to save his teammates. I was 7 when he died. I barely remember him, just pieces. His laugh, the way he'd flip pancakes too high and they'd stick to the ceiling. Sarah was crying now. My mom never talked about how he died, just that it was in combat, classified. When the truth came out at the hearing, she finally told me everything. About Black Tide, about you. I'm sorry I couldn't save him. You tried. That's what matters. And now I know he didn't die for nothing. He died trying to stop something terrible. He died a hero. They talked for another 20 minutes. Rachel told her stories about Kim, his terrible singing voice, his talent for finding the best food no matter where they deployed, the way he'd kept a photo of Sarah in his helmet and talked about her constantly. He loved you so much, Rachel said. Every decision he made was about getting home to you. Thank you, Sarah whispered, for remembering him. After she hung up, Rachel sat in her car and cried. For Kim, for Martinez, for all of them. The tears came hard and ugly, and she didn't try to stop them. When she finally drove home, the apartment felt different, smaller somehow, like she'd outgrown it while she was gone. She showered, ate leftover takeout from a container that was probably too old, fell into bed and slept dreamlessly for the first time in 10 years. The next morning, she woke to her phone ringing. Vega. "Turn on the news," he said. Rachel grabbed her laptop, pulled up CNN. The headline, "Former Senator Harmon found dead in federal custody." Rachel's blood went cold. She clicked the article. Elizabeth Harmon, the former senator awaiting trial for her role in the Black Tide scandal, was found unresponsive in her cell early this morning. Preliminary reports suggest suicide by hanging. An investigation is ongoing. "Suicide," Rachel said flatly. "That's the official story." Vega's voice was grim. "But the prison had cameras, guards. She was supposed to be on suicide watch. Convenient timing, right before her trial was set to expose everyone else involved." "You think someone killed her?" "I think powerful people don't like loose ends. And Harmon knew where all the bodies were buried. Literally." Rachel felt sick. "So they get away with it. The generals, the contractors, everyone above her in the chain." "Maybe. Maybe not. Torres says they've got enough evidence to proceed without her testimony. But, yeah, this makes it harder." Rachel closed the laptop. "I'm tired, Vega. I'm tired of fighting ghosts. Tired of watching people die to protect secrets." "I know, but we won. Not completely, not perfectly, but we won. The families have answers. The truth is out there. Policy is changing. That counts for something." "Does it?" "Yeah, it does." They talked for a few more minutes. Then Rachel got ready for another shift, because the world didn't stop spinning just because a corrupt senator was dead. People still needed saving. Over the next few weeks, life found a rhythm. Rachel worked her shifts, came home, slept better than she had in years. The nightmares didn't stop completely, but they came less often. And when they did, she could wake up and remind herself that the story had an ending now, that the dead had been honored, that she'd done everything she could. Amanda called twice a week, wanted to know everything about the hearing, the memorial, the investigation. Rachel gave her the edited version, the one that didn't include kidnapping and threats and Harmon's confession. "I'm proud of you," Amanda said during one call. "For standing up, for not backing down." "I didn't have a choice." "You always have a choice. You chose the hard thing instead of the safe thing. That takes courage." Rachel didn't feel courageous. She felt tired, but she thanked her sister anyway. Marcus got on the line. "Hey, Derek told me something about the guy from the plane, Caldwell. He got fired from his company. Board of directors forced him out after video of him harassing you went viral. Apparently some passenger recorded it and posted it after the hearing. His reputation's destroyed." Rachel didn't know how to feel about that. She hadn't wanted revenge, hadn't even thought about Caldwell since that night. But she couldn't pretend it didn't feel a little bit satisfying. "Karma's real," Marcus said. "Maybe." In early February, Rachel received an envelope from the Department of Defense. Inside was a letter and a medal. The Bronze Star with Valor. For actions on September 14th, 2015. She stared at it for a long time. This small piece of metal, this official recognition of a day that had broken her. She put it in a drawer and didn't look at it again for a month. In March, Reeves called. "I'm starting a nonprofit for combat medics and corpsmen, mental health support, transition services, job placement. I want to call it the Martinez Foundation." "That's good," Rachel said. "He'd like that." "I want you on the board, you and Vega and Quan, the four of us helping the next generation. What do you think?" Rachel thought about it. About using everything she'd learned to help others. About turning the worst day of her life into something that could prevent other people from suffering the same way. "Yeah," she said. "I'm in?" "Good, because I already put your name on the paperwork." Rachel laughed. First real laugh in months. "Of course you did." The Martinez Foundation launched in June. They held a fundraiser in San Diego. 200 people showed up. Veterans, active duty, families. Jennifer and Maria Martinez cut the ribbon. Rachel gave a speech she'd written and rewritten a dozen times. "Combat changes you," she said. It shows you the worst of humanity, the best of humanity, sometimes both in the same moment. You come home and you're supposed to go back to normal, but normal doesn't exist anymore. The person you were before, they're gone. You're someone new, someone who's seen things and done things and carries that weight forever. She looked out at the crowd, saw young medics who reminded her of herself at 22, saw parents who'd lost children, saw people who understood. This foundation exists because we don't want you to carry that weight alone. We've been where you are. We know what it costs, and we're here to help, to listen, to tell you that what you're feeling is normal, that you're not broken, that you can build a life after combat. It won't look like the life you planned, but it can still be good. Standing ovation. Rachel's hands shook as she stepped away from the microphone. Kelly Brennan approached her afterward. That was beautiful. David would have loved this. How are you doing? Rachel asked. Kelly smiled sadly. Better. Therapy helps. So does knowing the truth. I still miss him every day, but at least I don't wonder anymore. I know exactly what happened. I know he died trying to help someone. That's enough. They hugged. Kelly whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on him." In August, Rachel got a letter from Ashford City Council. They wanted to honor her at a public ceremony, give her a commendation for her military service and her testimony. Rachel almost said no. She didn't want attention, didn't want speeches and photos and people treating her like a hero. But then she thought about the 19-year-old kid who died on her table that first night, about all the patients she'd saved since, about how her story, Claire's story, Rachel's story, might inspire someone else to speak up when it mattered. So she said yes. The ceremony was on a Wednesday evening in September, almost exactly 11 years after the Black Tide ambush. The city hall was packed, patients she'd treated, coworkers from Riverside General. Amanda and Marcus drove up from Portland. Vega flew in from Denver. Reeves came from Phoenix. Quan showed up unannounced and sat in the back row. The mayor gave a speech about service and sacrifice. Read Rachel's military record aloud. The Bronze Star, the missions, the lives saved. Then he called her to the stage. Rachel walked up slowly, accepted a plaque that said she was an honorary citizen of Ashford, shook the mayor's hand while cameras flashed. Would you like to say a few words? The mayor asked. Rachel hadn't prepared anything. She looked out at the crowd, saw so many faces, some she knew, most she didn't. I'm not good at speeches, she started. I'm better at stitching people back together than I am at talking, but I'll try. She took a breath. 11 years ago, I was someone else. I wore a different uniform, went by a different name. I did things I'm proud of and things that still keep me up at night. When I came home, I thought the best thing I could do was forget, become someone new, bury Claire Donovan and live as Rachel Morgan. The room was silent. But you can't bury the past. It follows you, shapes you, and eventually you have to decide whether you're going to keep running from it or turn around and face it. She looked at Vega, at Reeves, at Quan. I faced it because people I trusted pushed me to, because families deserved answers, because 8 Marines deserved to be remembered, not because I'm brave, but because hiding was killing me slowly and facing the truth, no matter how ugly, was the only way to survive. Rachel held up the plaque. This honor isn't just mine. It belongs to every person who refuses to stay silent when silence is easier. Every whistleblower who risks everything for the truth. Every survivor who stands up and says, "This happened to me and it matters." We live in a world that rewards compliance and punishes honesty. But the people who change that world, who make it better, are the ones who speak up anyway. She set the plaque down. So if there's anyone out there carrying a secret that's destroying them, speak. Find someone you trust and speak. The truth won't fix everything, but it's better than the alternative. I promise you that much. She stepped back. The applause started slow, then built. People were standing, crying. Amanda was sobbing in the front row. After the ceremony, people lined up to shake Rachel's hand. Thank her. Tell her their stories. A veteran from Vietnam who'd never talked about his service until tonight. A young woman who'd been assaulted and stayed quiet for years. A nurse who'd witnessed medical malpractice and was scared to report it. Rachel listened to all of them, gave them the Martinez Foundation's number, told them they weren't alone. It was nearly midnight before the crowd cleared. Rachel stood outside City Hall with Vega, Reeves, and Quan. "Hell of a speech, Doc," Vega said. "I meant every word." Quan lit a cigarette, offered one to Rachel. Rachel shook her head. "You really changed your whole life for this," Quan said. "Gave up hiding, went public. That takes guts. Or stupidity. Same thing sometimes." Reeves checked his phone. "My flight's early tomorrow. I should get back to the hotel." "Mine too," Vega said. They started to leave. Rachel called after them. "Hey." They turned. "Thank you for testifying, for standing with me. I couldn't have done it alone." Vega smiled. "Yeah, you could have, but you didn't have to. That's what a team is for." They left. Quan stayed. "You gonna be okay?" Quan asked. "I think so. You?" "Getting there?" Quan took a long drag. "I spent 10 years in the woods hiding from the world. Figured if nobody could find me, nobody could hurt me. But isolation hurts too. Different kind of pain." "What changed?" "You did. Saw you testifying and thought if Doc can face her demons, maybe I can too." Quan dropped the cigarette and crushed it under her boot. "Started small, moved back to Seattle, got an apartment, started therapy. It's not perfect, but it's better than hiding." "That's good." "Yeah." Quan looked up at the stars. "You think they're watching? Martinez and the others?" Rachel didn't believe in that kind of thing, but she wanted to. "Maybe. Hope so. Hope they know we didn't forget them." Quan left. Rachel walked to her car alone, drove home through empty streets, let herself into her apartment and stood in the dark for a long time. Her phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer Martinez. "Saw the ceremony online. You were amazing. Thank you for keeping David's memory alive." Another from Kelly. "You inspired me to go back to school, starting nursing program in the fall. Figured if I can't have David, I can at least help people the way he wanted to." Rachel read the messages and felt something shift. The weight she'd been carrying for 11 years, it didn't disappear, but it redistributed, spread out across dozens of people who were choosing to remember, to honor, to turn tragedy into purpose. That was enough. She changed into pajamas, made tea, sat by the window, and watched the city sleep. Tomorrow she'd go back to the hospital, save lives, do her job. Be Rachel Morgan, civilian nurse, veteran, survivor. But tonight she let herself be both. Rachel and Claire, the person she'd become and the person she'd been. No more hiding, no more running, just truth. In late October, Rachel received one final letter. It came from the Department of Defense, marked with official seals. Inside was a full pardon and expungement of her sealed military record. All the classified missions, all the redacted after-action reports, everything that had been buried was now cleared. There was also a personal note from the new Secretary of Defense, Miss Donovan/Morgan. Your service to this country extended far beyond your time in uniform. Your courage in exposing corruption within our ranks has led to sweeping reforms. You've saved lives in combat and saved lives in testimony. On behalf of a grateful nation, thank you. Rachel folded the letter carefully, put it in the drawer with her bronze star. Then she pulled out her phone and called the one person she hadn't talked to yet. Her mother answered on the third ring. "Rachel?" They hadn't spoken in 8 years, not since Rachel changed her name and cut ties with everyone from her old life. "Hi, Mom." Silence. Then, "I saw you on the news. At the Senate hearing. I didn't know you'd served. You never told me." "I know. I should have." "Why didn't you?" Rachel looked out at Ashford, at the life she'd built. "Because I was ashamed, not of my service, but of what it cost, of who I became. I thought if I cut everyone off, I could start fresh. Turns out you can't outrun yourself." Her mother was crying. "I thought I'd lost you, thought you were gone forever. I'm here now." They talked for 2 hours, made plans for Rachel to visit during the holidays, began the slow work of rebuilding what had been broken. When Rachel hung up, she felt lighter, not healed, not fixed, but lighter. She went to work the next day with a clarity she'd never had before. Saved a woman having a heart attack, set a kid's broken arm, talked down a suicidal patient in the psych ward. During her lunch break, she got a call from Wolf. "I'm retiring," he said. "Officially. No more investigations. No more crusades. I'm moving to Montana, gonna buy some land and forget about the Pentagon." "You sure?" "Black Tide was my last case. We won. Time to let someone else fight the next fight." "What will you do?" "Fish? Read? Raise horses, maybe? Live quiet." He paused. "What about you?" Rachel thought about it. The hospital, the foundation, the families she'd connected with, the young medics she could mentor. "I'll keep doing this. Saving lives. Telling the truth. Helping people carry their weight." Sounds like a good life. It is. They said goodbye. Rachel went back to work. That night she drove to the beach, sat on the sand and watched the sun set over the Pacific. The waves rolled in steady and eternal. The wind carried the smell of salt and seaweed. Her phone buzzed one last time. Text from Sarah Kim. "Starting pre-med next semester. Gonna be a doctor. Gonna help people like my dad did. Like you did. Thank you for showing me it's possible." Rachel typed back, "You're going to be amazing. Your father would be so proud." She pocketed her phone and stood up. Walked down to the water's edge. Let the waves wash over her feet. Somewhere out there, 8 Marines rested. Their names carved in stone. Their stories told. Their deaths meaning something. Somewhere out there, families were healing. Veterans were getting help. Policies were changing. Somewhere out there, a 19-year-old medic was learning how to save lives under fire. And when they struggled, when they came home broken, when they thought about giving up, there would be resources waiting, support systems, people who understood, the Black Tide protocol. Rachel took a deep breath, let it out slowly. She wasn't the woman who'd boarded that plane in blood-stained scrubs, wasn't the soldier who'd carried Reeves through enemy fire, wasn't the nurse who'd hidden from her past for a decade. She was all of those people, and more. She was Rachel Morgan, Claire Donovan, combat medic, civilian nurse, survivor, witness, truth teller. She was someone who'd been judged by her appearance and proven wrong everyone who underestimated her. She was someone who'd chosen justice over safety, truth over comfort, purpose over peace. She was someone who'd survived, not just the war, not just the ambush, but the aftermath, the silence, the weight of carrying dead friends into a future they'd never see. And she would keep surviving, keep fighting, keep saving lives. Because that's what medics did. They ran toward the fire when everyone else ran away. They carried the wounded when their own bodies were breaking. They stayed when staying meant dying. And they lived when they were lucky enough to live, with the understanding that every breath was borrowed time. Every patient saved was a small victory against the chaos. Every truth told was a light in the darkness. Rachel turned away from the ocean, walked back to her car, drove home through streets that felt less like hiding and more like living. Tomorrow she'd wake up and save more lives. Next week she'd attend another Martinez Foundation event. Next month she'd visit her mother for the first time in 8 years. And next year, who knew? The future was uncertain, scary, full of potential. But it was hers. And that was enough. She pulled into her parking space, climbed the stairs to her apartment, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. Home. Not the apartment she'd hidden in, not the identity she'd built to escape the past. Just home. Real, messy, imperfect, true. Rachel kicked off her shoes, made dinner, sat down with a book she'd been meaning to read for months. Her phone stayed silent. The world kept turning. And somewhere in the distance, barely audible, she thought she heard Martinez laughing, Kim singing off-key, Reeves cracking a terrible joke. She smiled. "Miss you guys," she said to the empty room. "But we got 'em. We got every last one of them. You can rest now." The apartment was quiet. But for the first time in 11 years, so was Rachel's mind. She read until her eyes got heavy, brushed her teeth, climbed into bed, and slept. No nightmares, no cold sweats, no waking up at 3 a.m. reaching for weapons that weren't there. Just sleep. Deep. Peaceful. Earned. Because the truth, the real truth, was this. She'd spent 10 years being someone else. 10 years running from a past that refused to stay buried. 10 years believing that hiding was the same as healing. She'd been wrong. Healing came from facing what you'd done and who you'd been. from standing up when it was easier to sit down, from speaking when silence was safer. Healing came from choosing yourself, your truth, your story, your voice, even when the world wanted you quiet. And now, finally, Rachel was healing. Not perfectly, not completely, but honestly. And that made all the difference.